how to edit a user profile with the first name and last name, and there is the button where you can click on it and you can edit the first name or the last name. So let's change this to John Smith, and the button is changed from edit profile to save profile. When I click on the save profile, you see the last name has changed, and the same for this one, the name has changed from John Cena to John Smith. So now let's have a look at the code. So here we have the edit profile component, and we also have the is editing. By default, we set the state to false. Okay, we have the first name as well as the last name. So first name, we set this by default, the value is John, and last name, the default value is Cena. And we also have the form as well. So with this form, you notice that we are using the prevent default. So what does this do? This will prevent the default behavior of a form submission. If you don't use this one, right, it will refresh the page every time that you click on the button. Let me show you right now. So now I comment this out and let's have a look. When I click on the button, the page will load. Okay, every time I click on it, the page load, right? So we don't want this to happen, and that's why we have to use the prevent default to prevent the page reload. Okay, so now I can click on this, and here we have the label. Okay, first name, and here we are checking whether the is editing is true. Okay, if that is true, then we are able to enter the value in the text box. Okay, in the input, right? We can change, we can type the name, right? And when we type something in the text box, it will change the value and store that value in the first name. Okay, so now let me show you again. Click on the button, and now the editing turned to true, and we are able to see the input, right? The text box, and we can type something. So when I type something, then it also changed down here as well, because this is the first name variable, right? And when I click on save, it also saves it right here as well. So this is also the first name variable. And here we have the first name. Basically, if it is not editing, right? If it is not true, then it will just show the name, right? The first name. And for the last name, it's the same thing, the same logic. We have if it is editing, if that is true, then we are able to edit the text box of the last name. Otherwise, we're just gonna show the last name. That's it. And the button right here, we have the type submit, right? We are submitting the form. If the is editing is true, then we show the button save profile. Otherwise, if it is false, we just gonna show the edit profile. So by default, right? By default, it is set to false. That's why we see the edit profile. And when I click on the button, it will change the state of the is editing from false to true. So up here, okay. So when I click on the button, right, it will also do the opposite. So by default, it is false. It will do the opposite. Okay, you use the exclamation mark, and if it is true, then when I click on the button again, it will change back to false. It will just do the opposite every time I click on the button. And finally, we have the hello, first name and last name. Okay, so let me show you again. Let me just refresh this and click on the edit profile. Okay, first name, last name, save profile, then the value is saved. And that's pretty much it. So that's how you edit a profile of a user.